Another smooth start to Workshop Wednesday. We lost the theme tune this time. So anyway, if this is your first time here, guys, what I'm going to do is today I'm going to actually show you how to make a scarf neck. So if this is your first time here and you're interested in guitar making, guitars or anything to do with that kind of thing, then hit the subscribe button so you don't miss everything that's coming up, because we've got loads of amazing stuff coming up. Just finished a whole series on, we've made this guitar completely from scratch, so I've just put all that in a playlist, build your own guitar playlist. The whole thing's done completely live. I just did it for our YouTube viewers as a bit of a special during the current crisis. I thought it'd be a bit of fun, and also because we normally run workshop courses, people normally come here to the workshop and I teach them how to build guitars. Obviously all that's cancelled at the moment, and we also do gigs. We're gigging musicians. All our gigs are also cancelled at the moment for the foreseeable future. So here I am, I've come full circle. I'm back on the streets busking, except for I'm on the streets of YouTube. Yeah, so I'm going to try and keep the talking rubbish down to a minimum, folks, because that's what my channel is all about. That's what I'm all about, I'd like to think anyway. What I've done is I've filmed the entire process of building a guitar from start to finish, from a blank piece of paper right through to playing the finished guitar. We filmed it step by step and we put the whole thing online at guitarmaking.co.uk. so if you're interested in how to make guitars like this, then check out the website. That's what we're all about. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the courses are very I've cut all the, when I'm talking rubbish and pausing and umming and ahhing, I've cut all them bits out, so all you're getting is pure nuggets of information. And well, I'd like to say that it's the short of coming on one of my workshop courses or working in a guitar factory, as I was lucky enough to do when I was young. Short of doing that, then the online course is the best thing you can do. I think it's the best possible start you could get, short of actually coming to a guitar workshop or going on a guitar making course. So with all that said, I'm going to get straight on with making a bit of sawdust. So I'm going to actually show you guys today how we make a scarf neck, and this is in answer to a question that we had from, do you remember? Sorry, we can't remember who it was, but somebody asked. Was it Dunbar Farm? I can't remember. I think we had a few questions anyway about scarf necks. So that's why I decided I could cover it in a quick Wednesday workshop. So yeah, so we're going to hopefully within the hour have something resembling, well, I'm going to show you how we would make a scarf neck. I'm going to actually make the scarf neck blank and then quickly talk you through how we make the neck. So once you've got the blank, then you can make the neck just the same as any other neck. So I'll show you how to make that, whether it's a bolt-on or a set neck. That's all covered on the courses. So this is a little quick bonus, how to make a scarf neck. Okay. Yeah, before I actually start, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been supporting us over the last month. This has been our busiest month ever, I think, apart from maybe the odd Christmas. Orders are 700 to 800% up. Woohoo! So that's brilliant. But we're also understaffed at the moment because most of the Bailey team are at home due to lockdown. So I just want to say thank you again for being a little bit patient with us. I spent all morning packing boxes, so you know, it's all hands to the deck. Basically I'm in here on my own a lot doing stuff at the moment, so we're doing it as fast as we can. And I think I packed the last thing. I think we've caught up now, and the last thing will go out tomorrow. So if you're waiting for your whatever it is you're waiting for, then it's on its way. So yeah, the stocks in the shops are getting pretty run down, but we've got another shipment on its way, and I think we might even have to do another big order pretty soon, because well, if it carries on like this, then we're getting through it, folks. So it's all good. Hopefully keeping us busy and keeping us all sane, giving us something to do. So that's kind of the idea. That's what I'm doing here, really. So here we go. This is a guitar that I built last week. If you're interested in how I did that, check out the playlist Build Your Own Guitar on this channel, and if you want a lot more detail on that, then you can go to the website guitarmaking.co.uk. You can also just become a supporter. You don't have to become a premium member. You have to be a premium member if you want the full access to the courses, but you can just be a supporter. And if you just go and register for free on the community, you can join in, ask questions, and there's a free set of plans that you can download for the Bailey Bandsman guitar. Righto, so without further ado, let's make some sawdust. Right, I just want to show you a scarf neck. We're focusing on scarf necks today. This is a scarf neck. If we can get a close up of that, you can see the join there, look. You can see the join there. You can see the join across there. You can see the glue there, but it gets hidden by the time you've carved it. So let me show you one that's finished. Almost finished anyway. This is a base that I'm making. So why would you want to make a scarf neck? Well, it means that you can get your headstock angle. So when the strings meet the headstock, or rather when the strings meet the nut, there needs to be a break angle, so the string holds down into the nut. If there's not enough angle, then the string can bounce in the slot. So a headstock angle is desirable. If you don't have this, then you make what we call a parallel headstock. We call it a parallel headstock. So that's the alternative is a parallel headstock. So this is made from 2 pieces, or it could be 1 piece, but there's no join, and so you see the headstock is parallel. And so to get our break angle, we use what we call a string tree or a string retainer. It holds the string down. A kind of butterfly shaped piece of metal, you'll have seen those, holds the string down over the nut to stop it from bouncing. So the point of that is that you get there's another point of friction. So especially if you've got a tremolo, every point of friction can cause tuning issues. So the string can stick when you're trying to tune. The string sticks in the string trees. So if we can avoid having any string trees at all, then why not? So one way to do that is to have an angled back headstock. So you start with, the normal way to do it would be to start with a 2-inch neck blank. So this is thick enough so that we can make an angle into the blank. Now you can't do that with a 1-inch neck blank. You need a 2-inch neck blank, so you've doubled your cost right from the start, basically. That's why set necks are usually more expensive. So a scarf neck enables you to get the headstock angle using a 1-inch blank. So I'm going to show you now how we do that. Any minute now. That's another 2-inch blank, by the way, that we can laminate. So these necks can be laminated, just so you know. So you've got a 1-inch neck blank. 1-inch neck blank. That can be a 1-piece neck or a parallel headstock. Parallel headstock neck with a fretboard. Or you can make 2-inch set neck. So a through neck blank would just be a longer version of that. So I know some of you guys have seen all this before, but I'm just quickly going through the different styles of neck. So there's a through neck, and obviously it's the same as a set neck, it's just longer, basically. Now I did a whole session on through necks on Saturday, so if you're interested in that, go and watch that. But wait till I finish this first. So that brings us back to the scarf neck. So the scarf neck means that you can get the headstock angle using a thin piece of wood. So it kind of gives you added benefits. Obviously there is a disadvantage. Disadvantage is you've got extra work. It takes time, and you've got a joint. Now there's one thing I want to mention about the joint. You'll see a lot of guitars where the actual scarf joint is underneath the fretboard, and I guess they think the idea is that it reinforces the joint, having the fretboard glued across it. Unfortunately, it actually weakens it, because you're gluing that fretboard down onto a piece of end grain. So the piece of wood that would be underneath the end of the fretboard is actually end grain. And you'll probably have seen this on a lot of cheap guitars where the fretboard starts coming away. You'll see a lot of these style of guitars where the fretboard starts coming away there. That's because they've scarfed the neck here, and the joint they think is reinforced by the fretboard, but because you're gluing onto end grain, it isn't as strong, and so your fretboard can start coming away, and that's pretty much a disaster really. So I prefer to move the scarf joint to there, and then you do get this line across. I'm not sure if you can see that line. You can see the line of the join there. So I would either paint that black or a solid colour, or I usually put a veneer on. So here's the one I'm making. So the only thing that's actually left visible of the join is that bit on the side, which if you do a good job, it's virtually invisible. It's really difficult to see. It's hard for me to point because I can't see where I'm pointing. It's about there somewhere, and then you just see a line across at the back there. So that's if you do a good job, that's all you see, and it's plenty strong. Just test it till it breaks. Right, stop messing about. Let's do it. So I'm now going to demonstrate. How many minutes in, Carol?
It's 1:15.
1:15.
We're 15 minutes in.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Apologies for the long intro then, folks. Going to make a bit of space. And we're going to make a bit of sawdust. So yeah, it's live, so there's bound to be a little bit of extra waffle. I do apologise for that, but I'll do my best. Incidentally, this is the 2-inch neck blank for an acoustic guitar. Usually we just cut the end off and join it like that for an acoustic. So you end up with that little bonus for you there. So I know I do waffle a bit, but I try and get as much information in as possible. That's what it's all about. So, as usual with a neck blank, you want quarter sawn grain if possible. Maple rarely comes quarter sawn, so that's out of the window usually. In this case it's not quarter sawn, it's slab cut, but because it's maple it is a lot stiffer, so it's less important. We're usually quite happy with a slab cut maple neck. Check out your own guitar collection, folks, and you'll probably find it's pretty much the same. So with a scarf neck, you do need a little bit of extra length. So maybe not quite this long. This is an extra long one. But because we're going to cut it and shut it, there is a little bit of wastage in between. So you need, I would say, to be on the safe side, get an extra inch. However long your neck is, you'll need at least an extra inch. And if it's more than an inch, then that's a bonus, isn't it? One of life's bonuses, more than an inch. So let's make a scarf neck blank. Can we have an overhead shot, please, my lovely? Right. We want to make sure we've got enough space. So I'm going to use this just as an example. This is a 6-in-line headstock. So that's about as long as a headstock's ever going to get. So let's put that there. Here's my fretboard. Now if you're making a guitar, I always recommend you start with the fretboard. And I've got 2 videos on how we make fretboards, the easy way and the hard way. You can check that out if you're interested. Wait till we've finished this bit. If you want to know how we make them, check those videos out. There's actually no shame. I always say the fretboard is the most important part. So if you're building a guitar at home, there's certainly no shame in buying a pre-made fretboard. We sell a lot of those on our site. So that's what I spent most of this morning packing up loads of these for you lucky fellas on their way. So we've made our fretboard first, is my point. That's so that we can use our fretboard to lay out our neck, and also we can also lay out our body using the fretboard. We can use our fretboard to lay out our body. In fact, that's an idea I've got for another quick workshop Wednesday. Is, let's say you've got a nice neck that you like, but you want to make a new body for it because you don't like the body. I'm going to show you how to take a existing neck and make a body for it. If you guys want that, let me know in the comments. So Carol's saying there's a question.
Phantom Exploration says, how thick is the wood?
Excellent question. I was going to mention that. Thanks for reminding me. What was his name?
Phantom Exploration.
Phantom Exploration. Cheers for that brilliant question. Right. I'll quickly take you through the thicknesses. So the basic set neck that we use, the thickness isn't vitally important, as long as it's about as thick as your body blank. Or it can be a little bit less thick than your body blank. Let's say up to about 10mm thinner than your body blank. So random thickness, it doesn't actually matter. It's going to be about 40 to 50mm. Alright, that's for a set neck. Or now with a through neck you need a little bit more than that. So I would say 60mm for a through neck, because the angle and everything is all built in. So the through neck blank needs to be thicker because we cut the angle into the body. Obviously it ends up normal thickness. If you're not sure what I mean by that, I did go through it all on Saturday, so you can go back and watch on Saturday and you'll see what I mean. Through neck 60mm or thicker. So a normal bolt-on neck, I start at 21mm thick plus the fretboard. So the fretboard's about 6 to 6.5. And the actual maple neck there, the maple part is 21mm thick. It needs to be 20. You need enough thickness to get this scoop here. You see, it can be a little bit thicker, but I aim for about 21mm, 21 to 22mm. Any thinner than that, and then you can't get enough of this. And if you want to make a one-piece parallel headstock neck, you need like a full inch, like about 27mm. Over an inch actually, about 27mm. An inch would be absolute minimum. Okay. So with a scarf neck, it can be a little bit thinner because you don't need that extra thickness of the headstock. So down to 20mm, you could probably get away with 19mm. Because it's going to have the fretboard on top, so obviously the final thickness will be a bit more than that. But for a scarf neck, I make the neck blank 20mm. And by the way, if you're ordering on our website and you've got a particular need, you need it to be exactly whatever thickness, you can just let me know when you order at the checkout. You can just type it in the box or send us an email. I need a piece exactly 21.5mm thick, and I'll do that for you. It doesn't make any difference to me because everything's done by hand anyway. I do everything one at a time, so it makes no odds to me whether it's normal thickness or whether you've got a particular preference. Anyway, I'm waffling again. Less waffle, less up there, more down there. That's my new catchphrase. Less up there, more down there, please. Right, here's my neck blank. My beautiful, pristine maple neck blank. Another disadvantage of a scarf neck is that, while using the method I'm going to show you with the machines, you really need your piece of wood needs to be planed on 4 sides. So this is flat on all sides. With most neck blanks, you only need it to be flat on 3 sides. You need 1 straight edge to use as a guide for the router to make the truss rod slot. The truss rod slot. So with a normal neck blank, we just have it planed on 3 sides. So it's flat on the top, flat on the bottom, and 1 edge is flat. Doesn't matter about the other one, as long as we've got 1 edge to guide a router against so that we can make our truss rod slot. Okay. With the method I'm going to show you, you really need it to be planed on 4 sides. It needs to be reasonably flat on 4 sides. So that's for the machine method. I'm going to show you 2 methods actually. One with a router and a bandsaw, and then I'm going to show you another method completely by hand. What about that, eh? Where else can you get that? So let's do it. Bit of space. Let's do the machine method first. I don't know why I said that. I can do what I like, it's my workshop. Right, rewind. Here's where we were. I'm going to make sure I've left enough space for the headstock. Okay, so here's my fretboard. I'm leaving plenty of space, and I'm going to mark. What about that? Carol's prepared some pencils for me. Amazing. Spoiled rotten. I'm going to mark my nut position. Now, by the way, this is a fretboard with a nut slot. This is for a parallel headstock. So if I was making this guitar, I actually need to cut that off, or use one without that. So with a scarf neck, there's no nut slot. No nut slot. So I'm going to use this fretboard instead. Just making sure that I've got enough space, okay? And now let me introduce you to my magic jig. I need a wide shot, my lovely. Okay, so this is just a box. It couldn't be more simple. It's just a box. It's got 4 sides. This is a 14-degree angle. Excellent camera work. So this just fits in here like this. You notice there's a gap there. What I need to do is turn it round so that it sits off the edge of the bench like this. Can you see that? Obviously it depends on how long your neck is, but if it was a ukulele it'd be alright, but if it was a bass, then I need the extra length. So rather than make a huge tall jig, I just clamp it so it's on the edge of the bench like that. So what I can do, oh, we've got a bit of microphone intrusion. Microphone intrusion. It's live, folks. Did I mention that? No safety net. Okay, so you can see I basically got a piece of wood that was 6 inches wide. Let's give the measurements out so folks can copy it. This is the ruler that Niall left in the workshop 20 years ago. I've still got it.
Oh, I need to message him.
So cheers for that, Niall. So yeah, my jig it's 2 foot long. Can we have some camera work, Carol?
Sorry, got a question.
Right, it's 2 foot long, 6 inches high, and then I just marked on a 14 degree angle, and then I left 8 inches at the end flat. This bit's just arbitrary. Just leave a love for a headstock, join it up with your 14 degree line to the end. These holes are just for clamps. Sometimes I don't even use them, I just clamp it to the table. So let me show you, if we just put our piece of wood in there, then I can use that to mark on a line here. Brilliant. So I just need to cut that off now. Carol's got a question.
Bagcrust has asked, can you explain why a nut slot for a parallel headstock? Why? Why do you have to have a nut slot for a parallel headstock?
Why do you have to have a nut slot with a parallel headstock? Well, you don't. You don't have to have a nut slot. In fact, if this was, imagine a Floyd Rose lock-in nut, well, you would just chop this end bit off. You would just chop that off flat, and then your nut would go on there. So it doesn't have to, it just normally is. It normally is. So if it didn't, then it would be unusual. And I would probably call it a hybrid style of guitar.
Another quick one. Tony at TV 101 is saying, is the 14 degree angle critical, or could it be larger or smaller?
Okay, 14 degrees is maximum. I suppose and one of the reasons for doing a scarf neck is to maximise the angle. If you're using a 2-inch neck blank, there is a maximum angle, and that's how thick your piece of wood is. You can't make your angle any bigger than how thick your piece of wood is. So a scarf neck means that you can put the angle to whatever you want. Having said that, I would say 14 degrees is maximum. So optimum headstock angle is 9 to 14 degrees. Every time I line it up, you change the camera. 9 to 14 degrees. So you can see the line. The line stands out pretty bad there, but I promise you, by the time you've cut the the headstock, you barely see it. It looks professional, doesn't it? Okay, Carol. So I've marked out my scarf joint. Now I'm going to cut it. So there's two ways to do it. I'm going to show you both ways. Let's start by doing it on the bandsaw.
One more question.
Well, there's a clue there, Carol.
Yeah, one more question. Oliver in Denmark's asking, what's the purpose of having a headstock angle?
Let me cut this and I'll explain.
Okay, hold on.
Can you see?
Yeah. Right,
More light.
Yeah.
You see that, Carol?
Yeah, right in place.
I did explain this earlier, but I'll go through it again just quickly. The purpose of a headstock angle so if you don't have any angle, then the strings will bounce in the nut. So with a normal bolt-on style neck parallel headstock, you need string trees to hold the strings down. Otherwise the strings bounce in the nut. It's parallel headstock, you need something to hold the strings down into the nut. So with an angled headstock, you can avoid that. But the trouble with an angled headstock is that you need to spend more money on wood because it's thicker. So the scarf headstock is giving you the angled headstock but with a thinner piece of wood. So it has advantages. There are disadvantages as well. I did go through all this earlier on in the video, so you can just, when you get to the end, you can just rewind it back and watch it again. That's good for view time. Get double the view time then, don't I?
There's another quick
question. Go
which
on.
Is relevant. Brad Press is saying, do you always put the headstock piece on the underside of the neck? I thought that was quite an interesting question.
Well, yes,
I might have to repeat it.
because obviously that's where the angle wants to be. Is there a blade? Thank you.
I don't know if you've heard that.
So, do I always... What was the question?
Do you always put the headstock piece on the underside of the neck when you're doing the scarf?
Yes.
So
That goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you put it the other way round, you end up gluing the fretboard on top of it. It's actually weaker because you're gluing the fretboard onto the end grain, if you think about it. Makes sense? Think of every cheap guitar you've ever seen with the fretboard coming off. The fretboard comes off at that end. That's why. So it's better to do this and then reinforce the join with some veneer. As I said, I did go through all this. I explained all this, and I don't want to I'm trying not to repeat myself too much. I'm going to use double-sided tape now to stick that on there. I'm going to try and just line up the two angled surfaces. Right, this is probably going to look a bit weird to you guys at the moment, but it will all become clear. I probably should have just demonstrated first. This piece I'm going to take off I'm going to take off this piece at the bottom, turn it round and stick it on underneath. So can we just go over here, Carol? A quick squeeze in the vise just to activate the double-sided tape. Quick squeeze, that's all it needs, and then we're ready. So it goes back in the jig. You need to have the overhang in the bench. And now let's just clamp that into place. What I'm going to do is just machine this surface flat, and that's going to become our gluing surface. So this isn't our headstock surface, this is our gluing surface. It will all become clear, I promise you. And I promise just some sawdust as well. So here we go. Special sawdust. There's a song about sawdust. Is the sawdust jealous? The rest of the wood becomes a guitar. But what about the sawdust? Poor old sawdust gets left behind.
Turns into potatoes.
It does, it turns into potatoes. We turn our sawdust into potatoes. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the surfacing method. So you guys are all familiar with this, aren't you? You guys have been on the course. I'm going to use the router to route a flat surface. So I call it surfacing with the router. I'm going to take the router down just until the cutter touches the wood. I don't know if we can get a... Oh, let's go for a close-up.
That was running terribly behind before. But it seems
Yeah, if you switch the cameras in a bit, then it seems to fix itself.
yeah, it's actually running.
Can you see anything with it though?
Oh, sorry.
I'm taking the cutter down to touch the wood. Just touching the wood. And now I'm going to set... I've got my depth stop here. So... I'm going to set a gap of about 1 mil.
That's amazing.
Luthier as I can. I've always wanted to do that. Right. Now, where am I going to put this? Is that as much length as I've got on that? It just doesn't quite reach. What about that?
Down, push it down a bit. There we go, look at that.
Bit of instability going on there. Can you just give me just a little, pull the computer this way a bit? Just an inch would do.
Helps me as well. I think
That'll
it
do.
looks alright.
Yeah. Alright.
You want to tip it down a little bit.
Oh well. It's a bit overexposed now, isn't it? Hopefully it'll fix itself. Right, guys, enough messing about. I've taken it down to touch the wood, and then I set a stop here for about 1 mil. So I'm going to take it down. It's going to cut about 1 mil deep. I'm going to go around the outside first, and then smaller and smaller circles until I've covered the whole surface. Still left a bit at this end. Still bandsaw marks this end, which aren't showing up, but I can see them. Right, wait till it stops spinning before you wave it about, folks. And always make sure that you're wearing your safety goggles, obviously, like I was. Obviously. Let's take it out of the jig. And have a look at it. Now that will just break off now. We'll just check that we've got all the surfaces covered. Yeah, look at that. Little cam. It's too bright. Let it just gone white.
Oh, that's it. That's kind of a good angle.
There we go. It's actually quite a good surface. It's
Well, there. That's it.
It's almost perfect. So what I do now is protect these edges, by the way. Guard them with your life, because we need that sharp edge there. What I do now is just put it on the edge of the bench again. And here. I'm going to use a nice fresh block. This is 80 grit on a block, just to clean it up. Hardly any. That's it. I'm not going to do any more than that. I could do a bit more, but I don't really need to. You might need to, depends on how rough your surface is. I'm going to give that surface a scrape now with a blade. A scraped surface is a lot stronger than a sanded one. So we'll just finish it like that, and then I'm going to break that off. Right, I'll break that off in a minute. So I'm going to use a chisel. I'm going to go in somewhere where I know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I dent it there, because it doesn't matter if I dent it there because it's not part of the guitar. Just for safety, I'm going to clamp it down so I don't stab myself, and use a chisel to pry this headstock off. It's good stuff, this double-sided tape, hey? NEC tape, by the way, if you're new to this, you need NEC tape or exhibition tape. Super strong, and yet comes off really easily without damaging the wood. See that? Try doing that with carpet tape, folks. You'll be there all day. Ask me how I know. Right, so now it will all become clear with a bit of luck. So I'm going to glue that on to here. Now there is a specific way that I glue it on, and so don't go away yet, folks, because I'm not finished. See that? That's pretty good, isn't it? That's not bad. Now I suppose you could just use some plastic clips. The trouble is, as soon as you put glue on, this all behaves itself really nicely until you put glue on, and then when you squeeze it, it's going to want to slide like this, and you'll end up with a massive step. We don't want that. We want to glue this as level as possible. Now, if when we glue it there is a bit of a step, then we can just whack it back in that jig and just level it off again. And then at that point, it just becomes a normal neck blank, and you can carry on making the neck just as normal. So I'm going to show you, don't go away yet guys, because I've got to show you how we're going to clamp this, and I'm also going to show you how you can do that without the jig. Don't go away yet. Got a question?
Right, have you, Matt Tomon says, have you ever done a scarf joint with a dovetail in its side?
Scarf, yeah, I know, scarf headstock with a dovetail. Personally, no, I haven't done that. I'd say my background is I came from a guitar factory, and so guitar factories, we didn't mess about with that kind of thing. We made one-piece necks. My personal preference is to start with a one-piece neck, and it's a lot. I find it's a lot easier and tonally superior, I would say, to have it all out of one piece. Of course, your opinion might vary. It is all, at the end of the day, a matter of choice. And if it's your guitar, it's your choice, isn't it? You decide. But what I would say is that it's a lot more difficult to do. So definitely not recommended for the beginner. You'll see like dovetail headstocks, like on Macaferry style guitars. Again, it's a way of scarfing the headstock, making an angled headstock, so it makes a guitar that appears more expensive, but it's cheaper to make. If you've got great big machines, like I've seen, you'll have seen headstocks that are joined like this, with like finger joints. Great, but really easy to do for a factory, really difficult for us guys to do at home. So what I'm about is how to show people how they can build guitars at home without investing millions of pounds on machines and building a guitar factory. You don't need it. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
One last quick question before you start doing this.
Go on then.
Right, so this is a question from Tony Vince.
Tony!
Right, but DJ says he asked you this at the workshop,
Oh, right.
and he's going to let Tony ask this. So Tony says, have you ever seen the trick with masking tape and super glue?
I'll just pretend I didn't hear that.
Right, moving on there.
Yeah, we don't use the masking tape trick, folks. We use proper double-sided tape, and we use masking tape for masking purposes. I did explain why in a previous video, but there are health and safety reasons you don't want to use the masking tape trick. You don't want to because it involves a lot of super glue. Super glue is more expensive. Use the proper stuff. You've set me off now. You've hit my bloody trigger board. You've triggered me. Not the masking tape trick, folks. Please don't use a masking tape trick. Unless you're a complete skinflint, buy the proper stuff. I've just shown you how good this stuff is. It's worth every penny. Time's money. We've only got so much time. How much time of your life do you want to spend picking super glue off your bloody face? Yeah, look, Casualty, they're fed up of me turning up with guitar necks glued to my face. So we try not to do that. Right, anyway,
That's it now.
no more mention of that, please. Not on this channel. Not on this channel. Right, here's another way to do it. We could use a bevel gauge to mark the angle. Take the angle off your favourite guitar. Why not? I'm just going to take it off my favourite guitar, which is the one I'm building. In case you're wondering. So I'm just going just so it's the same angle. I'm just going to guess the length of the headstock. I've got plenty of excess length here. I'm a pretty good guesser because I've spent the last 20 years doing it. That'll do anyway.
Hold on.
This time I'm going to mark it all the way around because I'm going to cut this one by hand. Which will be very interesting because I've never done it before, let alone live on YouTube. So this could be interesting. This is how I would recommend you did it if you didn't have... In fact, I don't recommend you do it like this at all. I've never done it like this. I'm showing you like this because somebody asked me somebody asked me how I would do it if I didn't have a bandsaw, and so I'm doing it to answer that question. So whoever that was, thank you for that question. You're about to find out. I'm going to put a little wooden clamp on there if you can get a shot of that, Carol.
Yeah.
So here's an old Japanese saw got from my friend Bill at Tone Tech, if you're wondering. I'm going to put the saw right down the middle of the line. Let's put a bit more clamping pressure on. I'm going to cut as accurately and square as I can. Actually, I'm lying, I'm doing it as fast as I can. What could go wrong? Sorry about the wobbling, folks. How are we doing? It's worth keep stopping and having a look. Trying to keep it square on both sides. I'm going to just get as deep as I can. Maxed out. Any old saw would do. Oh, look how straight that is. That reminds me of my first ever saw cut when I was 11. Thing is though, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to use the same router method. Or I'll show you another way.
The saying cutting without a safety net. It doesn't get any better than that.
Doesn't get any wonkier. Yeah, so what I thought was then I could just run the saw through that way and that way. Just to take that last bit off. Oh, I was thinking about this in the shower and it went so much better. It went so much better when I was thinking about it in the shower.
But they're already saying it's no.
Oh, it's done.
Yay!
Now, we could have just used a bigger saw, but what I wanted to show you was with the saw that you've already got. So if you're building a guitar and you've gone through my course, you'll already have a fret saw. You can use that. So there's a bit of a step in it. It's not ideal, but guess what? If we just do the same thing with the router, then we can clean that up in no time. So I'm not going to actually do it with the router. I'm going to show you another way.
You're just saying a built-in volute.
Yeah, we need to do. I think it's its own thing. It needs its own name.
Phantom Exploration is saying, can you use a drop saw?
A drop saw?
I don't know what that
I'm not sure what you mean by a drop saw, guy. If you mean a chop saw, then you probably could, yes.
Okay.
You mean like a,
Circular.
yeah, like a circular saw, you probably could use that, yes. Obviously it's a lot more expensive than just the handsaw that I've showed you. So a quick squeeze in the vise again, oh dear. Too late, missed it. So I squeezed it in the vise. You could just squeeze it like this, and then can you see that, Karen, if I put it there?
Yes.
Obviously I would do it the way I've just showed you with the router. I'm going to put it in the vise instead.
That's an elbow.
Carol.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we're almost there. I just wanted to show you this, guys, which is how another way to do it by hand, and then we're going to get on to, I'm going to show you how I glue it up. There's an important step that I need to show you. I need to show you how I clamp it up, okay? So once it's clamped up, we're not going to be waiting for glue to dry, so you're not going to see the actual finished result of this guitar until I'll maybe show it to you on Saturday. So we're going to be streaming again. We're doing every Wednesday and Saturday now at 1 o'clock, guys. 1 PM, workshop Wednesdays and Saturdays. So yeah, we can clamp it in the and then plain by hand. Need a bit more clamping pressure. I'm saving up for a new vise, guys.
What is that vise?
As you can see, it would take a bit longer. But it's perfectly doable. I'll do a little bit more, but I don't want to bore you guys too much. Hopefully I'll get it good enough just to give you a quick demo. What's important if you're doing it by hand, make sure you're keeping it square and flat. It needs to be flat in all directions, which this is no way. Come in. It's one of the things, in it, you don't want to stop. So close. I don't want to bore you, but it's kind of hard to stop. That's me. So you could also use your block and finish with the scraper, as I said earlier, and then take it off. Same thing. Now that you guys have stuck with us till the end, I've got a little special treat for you, because I've got an even easier way to do this. you don't have to do any of this messing about. But you'll have to wait till the end for that. So that's how we would do it. Look at that. See, I mean, I was rushing, I was doing it very fast. But even so, it's not bad, is it? That's not bad. I'm sure I could get it a lot better than that with a bit of, you know, if I spent another 10 minutes on it. Right, let me show you how we glue it then. And then I'll leave you with one last trick. How we glue it, as I mentioned earlier, as soon as you put glue on, as soon as you involve glue, it starts to misbehave itself badly. Anything that's angled, it's going to want to slide, you see. So here's what we do. I've got a piece of scrap. Well, this is plastic, but it could just be wood with maybe wax on it to stop the glue from sticking. But just a flat piece, you could just use your bench. I'm using a flat piece of plastic because the glue doesn't stick to it, and it means that I can move it and put it somewhere else, and I don't have to leave it clamped to my bench. But you could just clamp it to your bench. So let me show you how we clamp it. But first, you can get yourself into a spot of bother with it sliding about. Here's what we do. I'm going to line it up exactly where I want it, with everything as flat as possible. Bear in mind, if it doesn't get perfectly flat, we can whack it back in the jig and machine it flat again afterwards. I'm going to put some clamps on. You'll need a wide shot, Carol.
Alright. Okay.
You need to see the whole thing.
Right. Sorry.
So I'm just going to put a clamp on here. No, that was good. That was a good close-up. They needed to see that as well. But now I need to see both ends.
Cumbersland Steve has just asked if prices are expensive. Good prices.
So someone was asking, who was that?
Cumbersland Steve.
Cumbersland Steve. Cheers, folks. Good question. Are vices expensive? And the answer to that is, well, they're as expensive as you want them to be, aren't they? Mine probably cost about £10 or £15. But you can spend a lot more. You don't need to have an expensive one for sure. What I'm doing here, Carol, is putting a clamp on the end. Okay, so that stops that from moving, and then the other end, my dear.
Oh, just checking it out.
Yeah, other end. Making sure everything's lined up. So clamps at the ends, like that. And then if you get a wide shot again. So the idea is that it can't spread now, you see. I need to just adjust this one. Get on there. Adjust the clamps until it can't spread. So you see that? So clamp on here,
Yeah.
and then if I squeeze that when there's glue on, it's going to want to slide. So I've put clamp at the ends to stop it from doing that. Okay. And then it's just a case of clamping it. A couple of bits of scrap. Here's a couple of bits of scrap wood, flat. I'm going to put one each side there, and then we can clamp it. So any old clamps will do. I'm just going to grab a couple of random clamps. I like to put two on. You've got to make sure that these blocks are sitting flat. make sure that this one, especially the one at the back, doesn't want to go round the corner, otherwise you'll be bending the block. Maybe if I get a shot like that, Carol, can you see that?
Hold on. Yeah, it's coming. There we go.
Yeah, make sure this block doesn't go past that line, otherwise you'll end up with a gap underneath. Cheers, Carol. So a couple of clamps. Can we get a wide shot and I'll show them how we impress the ladies?
Now, as long as you don't say that.
Yeah, this is how we impress the ladies.
Doesn't impress me.
Yeah, it never works. I never said it worked. Takes more than that to impress Carol. And there we go. So that is what we call dry clamped. We always dry clamp before we put any glue on, because it means that everything's ready. So I haven't got to run around the workshop now looking for clamps. And the only other thing I would check is to make sure that it's square. It needs to be sitting square like that. Close enough for rock and roll. So let's glue it. Go on then, let's have a couple of questions while I'm gluing.
Right, so Bagpress is asking about could you use dowel? Could you use a couple of 4mm or 5mm dowels at the edges which will be cut off?
We don't use dowels, Darren. Guitar makers, we don't use dowels. Dowels are for builders, kitchen makers.
What?
Guitar makers don't use dowels.
Okay.
You don't need it.
Do we need to dry clamp? Oh, right, okay, forget that one.
Dowels and biscuits. I get this question a lot. Sorry, Carol. I get the same question about biscuits. Builders like to use these things called biscuits, which are like dowels, but they're flat. We don't use them. Guitar makers don't use them. We just use butt joints. We just make sure that our surfaces are super flat. And I actually think it's stronger because sometimes wood will break around a dowel. It will break around a screw or a bolt or a dowel. Whereas if it was just flat butt joint, it's super strong. There's nothing to break around, if you see what I mean. With a dowel, you've got to drill a hole. So, yeah. It's not the done thing with guitars. So there we go, about that much glue, not too much. Nice yellow film. Can't see that, can you? Oh well. Enough to get a little bit of squeeze out all the way around is what we want. We don't have to rush. If you rush, then it tends to slide around a lot more. If you just take your time, give it 30 seconds or a minute, then it all starts to behave itself a little bit. It does what we call grab. This is what we call a fast grab glue. So it's grabbing at the moment, which means it will stop sliding around. Now I'll probably leave a little bit of a step there. It's hard to get it exactly perfect. There's always a little bit of cleanup to do, but it's pretty damn good. And then a couple of bits of scrap, and I'm going to put the clamps on. Not too tight, just nip them. And this is the point where it starts to misbehave. So don't over tighten the clamp, just nip it and get both on. You could put one on from either side. If it helps. Check the square. Looks pretty good. You can see that. Can't see it, can you?
No, I can't even zoom in on it. Oh no, that's it. Yeah.
And there we go. So I've just nipped the clamps. What I'm going to do now is just gradually tighten them a little bit at a time, keeping an eye on it, making sure it's not moving. Might even put some extra clamps on if you need it. You can clamp on here, clamp down there, extra clamps on there if you need it, like that. So it's looking good. I'm just going to nip it up the last little bit now. That's it. Done. There's definitely a little step there I can see, but it's only half a millimetre or something. It's nothing that won't come off with a little bit of planing or sanding, or if it's a big step I could just whack it back in the jig as you saw earlier. Right, one more little trick folks, one more little trick. This is another one that I don't do, but if that was all a bit much for you, then let me show you this. This is often done in classical guitars and acoustic guitars. So you start off with your neck blank, which is 1 inch thick roughly. We're just going to chop off a piece for the headstock on the bandsaw, Carol.
On the bandsaw, hold on, hold on.
Right, now we just glue that on there. Simple as that. All you do is you glue that on there, and then you've effectively got a 2 inch blank, and so you can make your headstock angle you can make your headstock angle into that. Can we get an overhead shot, Carol?
Overhead shot coming.
There. So if this was an acoustic guitar, then we could have a stacked heel as well. So you just glue pieces on here to make it big enough for the heel as well, or a set neck. So that's a really easy way to make a scarf neck. Believe it or not, when you chop out the headstock, it comes out pretty much the same as this. Now, I'm not a mathematician. Carol, come have my face, please.
No.
I'm wrapping up now. So I'm not a mathematician, or I ain't very clever. So I've not worked this out right, but I reckon that my way has more surface area, and so you end up with a stronger glue joint. Maybe I'm wrong, I haven't worked it out, but it's certainly more fun. It's more fun doing it that way, but you can just do that, believe it or not. That's perfectly acceptable to make a thick enough piece for a headstock angle. And so, do we have any final questions?
Yes, we have got one. Oliver in Denmark has asked, what do you think the best European woods are for guitar making?
European maple is lovely. I think it's actually superior to the Canadian rock maple. Canadian rock maple is always slab cut, but the European maple is quarter sawn, or it's available as quarter sawn. So European maple, yeah. What you find is that the American guys like the European stuff, and the European guys like the American stuff, so that's just the way it is. That's guitar players for you. So use it all, try it, and make your own mind up is the best way to do it, and then nobody can argue with you, can they? You can make up your own mind. So I hope you found that useful and interesting. and I hope I've inspired you to go away and start making a scarf neck now. If you want to see how this turns out, then tune in on Saturday 1 o'clock. We'll be back in the Bailey workshop for guitarmaking.co.uk. If you're new to all this, then make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you want to support us, links are all in the description below, and you can become a premium member, get access to all the courses. So thank you so much for watching, guys, especially if you've stuck around right till the end. Yeah, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. We've smashed it this month. We've done it really well, and it's all down to you guys.
So we're here for another one.
So yeah, I'm going to carry on doing the live streams because it's quite good fun, isn't it? I am new to it, so we've only really been doing it for about a month. But what I normally do is make films where it's not live, so I can cut out all the swearing and the arguing and all that kind of stuff. So my videos on the website are a lot more concise, they're shorter and a lot more to the point. So anyway, have a look around the website, and you can also get hold of your pre-made fretboards and neck banks and stuff. T-shirts are available, and yeah, we've got some more ideas for stuff. So if you've got any ideas for what you want me to do on these workshop Wednesdays, then leave them in the description. Mark, I want you to do this, and I'll do it. That's what I did today. We were asked about how to make a scarf neck, and hopefully I've answered your questions. So that's how we make the blank, and then the rest of the neck is made pretty much exactly the same. So you can see, if you want to make a bolt-on version, there's a course on the site. If you want to make a set neck version of that, then there's also a course for that. If you're interested in acoustic guitars, we've got all that covered as well. And it starts right from the design process, from a blank piece of paper to the finished product. Something like this, or you can get as fancy as you want. I'm amazed what people are churning out using my methods. If you go to, you can sign up for free on the site just to get on the forum, and there's a free set of plans you can download. Go on the forum and check out what other people are building using my methods. It's pretty astounding, and that we've got people all over the world now doing it. So that's it. Wrap up. We're done. Carol's now going to fade to black and play the film. So thank you very much if you stuck around to the end. Kudos. Remember, measure twice, cut once, rock and roll.
Guitars where the Gulf Stream flows, his artisans